Before there was England, before the crowns, castles, and conquests, there were tribes, ancient peoples who roamed a land of forests and mist, men and women who worshipped the sun and moon, who buried their chiefs under stones taller than trees. These were the Britons, the first storytellers of the island, born into a world where survival was a war, and every sunrise was a gift. But this land, known only by rumor and reign to the rest of the world, was about to change forever. In the year 43 AD, the greatest empire the world had ever known, Rome, turned its eyes to this land. Led by Emperor Claudius, the legions marched in, iron shields gleaming, red banners snapping in the wind. Their goal was simple: conquer. Their enemy was not. The Britons fought like ghosts, appearing from forests and vanishing into fog. Their warriors used chariots, spears, and fire. They fought not for glory, but for home. And at the heart of this resistance was a woman, a queen, a mother, Boudica, the warrior queen who united tribes, led an army of fury, and came within days of driving Rome out forever. Rome won in the end, but Britain was changed, forever marked by rebellion, war, and an unbreakable will. When Rome fell, chaos returned. From across the seas came new invaders, Saxons, Angles, Jutes, and Vikings. They did not come to rule, they came to settle. Blood washed into soil, kings rose, kingdoms fell. Names like Mercia, Wessex, and Northumbria carved themselves into the bones of Britain. But one king stood above them all, a man history calls Alfred the Great, the first to dream of something beyond kingdoms, the first to dare utter the impossible word, England. In 1066, a new chapter began, with a single battle, the Battle of Hastings. The Norman Duke, William the Conqueror, crossed the sea with knights, horses, and ambition. On English soil, he defeated King Harold with a single arrow to the eye, and changed everything: language, law, architecture, even the way people worshipped. Castles rose like stone giants across the land. The Normans did not just conquer, they remade the world. The next 300 years would not just shape England, they would define it. The Plantagenet kings ruled a world of loyalty and murder. They fought foreign wars in France, and civil wars at home. Brothers killed brothers, kings fell to daggers, arrows, and famine. It was during this time that a humble document, the Magna Carta, was signed, not with peace, but under threat. It limited the king's power. It gave birth to the idea of Lord above the throne. It was the seed of democracy itself. Then came the plague, a silent killer that sailed on rats and ships. In just 3 years, half of England lay dead. Fields were empty, cities silent, and the world feared the end. But from death came awakening. New voices rose, new ideas took shape. Kingdoms began to question themselves, and from the ashes of plague and poverty, a young warrior king was born, Henry V. Out of the chaos of plague and peasant revolt rose a new king, Henry V. Young, devout, and unshakably fierce, he became the king who united a broken England, not with words, but with war. In 1415, he led a vastly outnumbered army into France, hungry, sick, and exhausted, and stood against the full might of the French at Agincourt. The English archers raised their longbows, and in a storm of arrows, they rewrote history. Henry V became a legend, the warrior king whose leadership and steel nearly united England and France under one crown. But victory has a price. He died at just 35. His son, just a baby, was crowned king. With Henry V gone, the peace shattered. Two royal families clawed for the throne, the House of York, the House of Lancaster. The battles were brutal. Brothers killed brothers. Kings drowned in blood and betrayal. The Wars of the Roses lasted 30 years, destroying England from within, until, from chaos, rose a new name, a young knight called Henry Tudor. On the fields of Bosworth, in 1485, he defeated the last Yorkist king, Richard III, whose body was found centuries later buried under a parking lot. From that battlefield, the Tudor dynasty was born. Henry Tudor became Henry VII, a king who united the warring houses by marrying, Elizabeth of York, and putting an end to decades of civil war. He rewrote the foundations of England, strengthened the crown, controlled the nobles, filled the treasury, created peace through diplomacy instead of war. But he also created something far more dangerous: a son, a dreamer, a king raised in silence who would become louder than all. His name was Henry VIII, and with him, England would change forever. When Henry VIII became king at 17, he was everything England wanted: tall, handsome, athletic, musical, a king fit for songs and stories. But songs turned to whispers when Henry decided he needed something no king had ever dared ask for: a divorce. When the Pope refused to grant it, Henry declared himself the head of the Church of England. He severed Rome, he seized the monasteries, he shattered centuries of faith, all for one woman, Anne Boleyn. Henry married 6 women to secure his legacy: Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, Catherine Parr. 2 were divorced, 2 were executed. 1 died giving birth. Only 1 survived him. And though Henry's body would grow larger, heavier, and weaker, his rule laid the foundation for a new England. But the price was blood, and faith, and a broken crown. His 3 children would each rule England, but none would rule like the last. When Elizabeth, Henry's second daughter, became queen, the world expected her to bow. But she did not bow. She ruled, and her rule would rise like sunlight across oceans, empires, and time. Her story is the bridge to episode 2, the Virgin Queen, the Empire, and the birth of England. Queen Elizabeth I did not inherit a peaceful kingdom. She inherited a powder keg. England was divided by religion. Europe doubted her, and every shadow held a plot to end her life. But Elizabeth understood something no ruler before her had mastered. Power is not only worn, it is performed. She turned her court into a stage, and herself into the star, wearing gowns of gold and jewels, her face painted white like divine porcelain. She crafted an image that no one could destroy: the Virgin Queen, the monarch who needed no man, the queen who chose England over love. She never married, and in doing so, became the mother of a nation. But not everyone bowed. Across the border, Mary, Queen of Scots, a Catholic queen, and Elizabeth's cousin, claimed the throne. Nobles whispered her name. Assassins wrote her letters. Every Catholic saw her as the rightful ruler. Mary fled to England, expecting safety. Instead, she found a prison. For 19 years, she lived under Elizabeth's watch, until her name was tied to a plot to kill the Queen. Elizabeth hesitated. Mary was blood, but the crown was survival. In 1587, Mary was executed, a queen killing a queen, and the world reacted. Spain, the most powerful empire in the world, struck back. King Philip II sent 130 warships to conquer England, restore Catholicism, and remove the heretic queen, the Spanish Armada. The world expected Elizabeth to run. Instead, she rode to Tilbury, in armor, before an army of common men, and spoke the words that forged a legend: "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman." Lightning, storms, and English firepower shattered the Armada. It was not just a victory. It was a miracle. England now stood as a true power. Explorers circled the globe, like Francis Drake. With peace won, England bloomed. Writers reshaped language, like William Shakespeare. Culture transformed. Architecture, music, poetry. Power. England was no longer a fractured island. It was a rising empire. But behind the majesty, a human truth remained. Elizabeth grew old, her face masked in powder. Her gowns weighed like armor. Her court, once alive with music, fell quiet. She had sacrificed love for a throne, and now the throne was all she had left. By 1603, Queen Elizabeth was 70. The woman who once silenced armies now sat alone in her chambers, unable to sleep, unable to speak, unable to rise. And when she finally died, she left no heir, no son, no daughter, no dynasty. The Tudors, who had ruled for over a century, ended with her final breath. But Elizabeth did not leave an empty kingdom. She left a nation transformed, A people united, a language reborn, a new identity, England. Her last recorded words were, "All my possessions for a moment of time." But time had already bowed to her. From invading tribes to crowned kings, from civil war to golden age, England had risen. But the story was only beginning. Next episode: the Virgin Queen and the birth of empire. How England took the world.